Open a British kitchen drawer in the 90s, and there's a smell memory waiting, milk simmering, sugar browning, cardamom in the air. These aren't restaurant desserts, they're everyday classics that traveled, adapted, and stuck. From set yogurts to syrup-soaked sweets, this is a tour of British Indian desserts you grew up with, whether you realized it or not. Caramel custard, creme caramel. Before ovens were trusted, the tin of custard sat in a pan of hot water, barely trembling. Caramel custard, or creme caramel, traveled easily between British kitchens and Indian ones because it relied on things already at hand: eggs, milk, sugar, patience. Sugar was melted separately, poured into a mold, then sealed under pale custard before cooking slowly until just set. It cooled overnight, untouched. Serving was the moment. A knife loosened the edge, a plate went on top, and the whole thing flipped. Caramel ran, glossy and bittersweet, pooling instantly. It felt grown up, careful, and faintly dramatic. Not flashy, just controlled, which is why it turned up at birthdays, dinner parties, and Sundays, again and again, across generations quietly. Bread and custard pudding. Same custard, different job. This time it rescued yesterday's bread. Bread and custard pudding starts with slices that have gone a bit firm, laid into a dish like you're building a lasagna of leftovers. Warm custard, eggs, milk, sugar gets poured over, and the bread soaks it up. In lots of British Indian homes, a thin swipe of jam slips between layers, giving little bursts of fruit in the middle. Some mums scatter raisins and a pinch of nutmeg on top for that old-school pudding smell. Then it bakes until the top is bronzed and the corners bubble. The genius is how ordinary it is. No special tins, no garnish. Serve it warm with tea and it tastes like you planned it. Bread and butter pudding. Next came the butter knife. Bread and butter pudding starts with slices spread thick, layered into a dish, and tucked with raisins so every scoop hits something sweet. Custard follows, poured over until the bread is heavy and glossy, then baked until the edge is brown. In Anglo-Indian households, it became a standard British pudding that didn't feel out of place alongside Indian mythi at all. Mums usually went extra on the raisins, added a light dusting of sugar, and served it warm so the center stayed soft while the top crackled the moment a spoon broke through. Shahi tukra. And then the bread dessert turns royal. Shahi tukra uses bread pieces fried in ghee until crisp, then dipped in sugar syrup scented with cardamom, often with rosewater. Instead of baked custard, it's topped with rabri. Milk simmered down until thick and sweet, sometimes flavored with saffron. Almonds and pistachios finish it, and the contrast is the point. Crunch at the edges, softness underneath, then that cool, rich milk on top. It's closely linked to Hyderabadi double ka meetha, a regional variation built on the same bread and milk idea. The name is literal. Shahi means royal, and tukra means a piece. Trifle swaps syrup-soaked bread for something colder and layered. Trifle is built, not baked, sponge at the bottom, often moistened with sherry in traditional British versions, then fruit, then jelly, then a thick pour of vanilla custard, finished with cream. In British Indian homes it adapts fast. Canned fruit is common, and the bowl is usually glass so the stripes show. Nothing fancy happens in the oven. The main trick is fridge time. Give it a few hours and the sponge drinks, the jelly firms up, and every scoop catches all the layers. Strawberry flummery, blancmange. Once you've done trifle, the next step is a dessert that sets. Blancmange is the classic. Milk or cream sweetened, thickened with gelatine or corn flour, usually scented with almonds, then poured into a mold and served cold. Flummery overlaps with that idea. Historically, it could mean a soft-set, oat-based pudding, but in modern British cooking it often lands closer to a jelly and dairy wobble. Strawberry flummery leans into the color and fruit flavor, sometimes made with strawberry jelly folded through evaporated milk or cream, so it turns pale pink and airy. The big tell is the texture. It holds its shape, then melts the second a spoon goes in. Apple grunt. From chilled molds to a pot that starts burbling. Apple grunt is a North American-style fruit pudding that turned up in plenty of British kitchens too. Apples simmered with sugar and spice, topped with spoonfuls of biscuit dough, then cooked covered on the hob until the dumplings puff. It's closely related to apple slump. The names are often used for the same thing, and the odd title has a simple explanation. As the fruit bubbles under the lid, it can sound like a low grunt. Indian coconut ice. After all that bubbling fruit, this one goes straight into a tin. Coconut ice is a classic no-bake sweet. Desiccated coconut mixed with condensed milk and icing sugar, pressed flat, then cut into neat squares once it firms up. In Britain, it's often done as 2 layers, with the top tinted pink, which makes it look like a proper old-fashioned sweet shop slab. The Indian spin shows up in flavor. Cardamom is a common choice, and some versions add a white chocolate topping. The texture is the whole point: dense, chewy, and coconut forward, with clean little bite marks left behind. Rice kheer. After the slice and serve sweets, it swings back to the saucepan. Rice kheer is milk simmered with rice until the grains turn tender and the whole thing thickens into a pourable pudding. Sugar goes in once it's reducing, and flavor usually comes from cardamom, sometimes saffron, plus nuts like almonds or pistachios. The key is the slow reduction. You're not boiling rice in milk. You're concentrating the milk itself while the rice releases starch. Some versions use basmati. Others pick a shorter grain rice for extra body. It can be served warm, but it also works cold from the fridge, where it tightens slightly and tastes even richer. Keep stirring near the end so it doesn't catch. Sevian, vermicelli kheer. Rice isn't the only thing that gets turned into kheer. Swap the grains for thin vermicelli and you've got sevian. It usually starts with the vermicelli toasted in ghee, so it picks up that nutty browned flavor first. Then it's simmered in milk with sugar and cardamom until the strands go soft and the pot thickens. Different homes layer it up with raisins, almonds, pistachios, sometimes saffron or a tiny splash of rose water. On Eid, the richer, date-heavy version is often called sheer kurma, literally milk with dates. Warm or chilled, same dessert, different mood. Firni sevian stays loose and spoonable. Firni goes the other way. This one starts with rice that's soaked, then ground, so it thickens milk into something smoother and more set than kheer. It's traditionally poured into little earthen cups, and that clay does 2 jobs at once. It cools the dessert fast, and it adds a faint, earthy perfume you don't get from glass or steel. Saffron sometimes tints it pale gold, and the top is often finished with nuts. You tap the spoon on the cup, and the surface gives soft, cool, and gently floral. Gajar ka halwa. If firni is the set and chill dessert, this one stays on the heat. A mountain of grated carrots hits a heavy pan with ghee, and the kitchen instantly smells like warm sweetness. Then comes the classic move. Cook the carrots down with milk and sugar until the liquid disappears and everything turns glossy and thick. Cardamom is the usual flavor note, and it's commonly finished with nuts like almonds or cashews, sometimes raisins too. It's especially tied to winter carrots in North India, and it's a Diwali regular in a lot of homes. The key is patience. You stop when it no longer looks like milk, just halwa. Suji halwa, shira. That carrot halwa warmth leads straight into its fastest cousin, suji halwa, aka shira. Ghee goes in first, then dry semolina, and you don't stop stirring until the grains smell nutty and look a shade darker. Now the shock, hot water mixed with sugar, some homes use jaggery, hits the pan, and it seizes into a thick, glossy mass. Cardamom usually finishes it with cashews or raisins if they're around. It's a festival regular and a common prasad offering because it's quick, scalable, and feeds a crowd. Then it's served. No ceremony. Gulab jamun. But if shira is all about the pan, gulab jamun is all about the soak. Small dough balls go into hot oil or ghee until they turn deep brown, then they're dropped straight into warm sugar syrup. The classic version uses khoya/mawa, reduced milk solids, or milk powder in the dough so the inside stays soft while the outside holds together. The syrup is often scented with rose water, sometimes saffron, and the name even nods to that. Gulab, rose water, plus jamun, the jamun fruit. They don't get glazed, they drink. Rasmalai. If gulab jamun is the syrup hit, the next one goes all in on milk. A cook lifts soft chena patties, presses them gently, then drops them into chilled, sweetened milk that's been thickened slightly and perfumed with cardamom. Saffron often shows up too, plus chopped pistachios or almonds. Served cold, ras malai eats like a sponge cake texture, but dairy first, more pudding than fried sweet. Some writers link it to Bengal's chena sweet tradition, with a popular claim that K.C. Das's circle helped popularize it as a riff on rasgulla, though the exact invention story gets debated. Rasgulla ras malai is the milk bath version. Rasgulla is the bouncy one that lives in syrup. You start by curdling milk to make chena, knead it smooth, then roll little balls. They go into hot sugar syrup and cook until they puff up, turning spongy so the sweetness soaks right through. Dasana's veg recipes. And this is where it gets spicy, culturally. It's one sweet with two big regional identities. West Bengal has a GI for Bangla Rosagolla, 2017, and Odisha later received one for Odisha Rasagola, 2019. Jalebi. If rasgulla is soft milk magic, jalebi goes loud. A vendor lifts a cloth piping bag and draws quick spirals straight into hot oil. The batter's usually flour mixed with yogurt or a fermenting agent, so it fizzes a little as it hits the heat. A minute later, those coils come out crisp, almost glassy, and they don't hang around. They get dunked in sugar syrup, sometimes scented with cardamom or saffron, then sold while they're still crackling at the edges. It's basically a sweet that's half precision, half speed, and you can taste both. Kulfi, mango pista, malai. After all that hot sweetness, the relief comes cold. A kulfiwala cracks open a metal mold and slides out a tight, dense log of frozen milk. Kulfi isn't churned like ice cream, so it sets heavier and melts slower. Traditional versions start with milk simmered down and sweetened, then flavored with cardamom and saffron, or pistachio, or mango pulp. It's poured into sealed molds and frozen by burying them in a pot packed with ice and salt, the old-school street freezer trick. The dessert's roots are widely linked to North India in the Mughal era. Barfi. If kulfi is milk frozen, barfi is milk set. You see it in sweet shops like jewelry, neat diamonds, stacks of pistachio, cashew, coconut, sometimes a flash of silver leaf on top. At its simplest, it's cooked milk solids, koya, mawa, and sugar worked together until thick, then pressed and cut. The name is often linked to barf, snow, because the classic version is pale and matte, almost powdery at the bite, even though it's rich. And once it's set, that's it. No rescue tricks. Coconut laddu. After barfi's neat squares, this one goes back to your hands. A pan's on low heat and the sweet base gets worked until it turns thick and cohesive. Then it's rolled, quickly, before it cools, pressed into small balls, and coated in coconut so it doesn't stick to everything. Coconut laddus are part of the wider laddu family. Simple, ball-shaped sweets that show up in countless regional versions. One common modern route uses sweetened condensed milk cooked down as the binder, with coconut and cardamom for flavor. Besan laddu. Coconut binds fast. Besan makes you work for it. The pan's on low heat and gram flour hits hot ghee. Suddenly it's thick, grainy, and you're stirring like you mean it. The whole point is roasting. Keep it moving until the raw smell drops away and it turns deeper, nutty, almost toasted. Then it's off the heat, sweetened, often with powdered sugar, and usually perfumed with cardamom. Nuts are optional but common. Roll it too early and it crumbles. Leave it too long and it sets like sand. The timing lives in your hands. Motichur, or bundi, laddu. After besan laddu's slow roast, you get the opposite vibe. Quick fire droplets hitting hot oil. Motichur laddu starts as a thin gram flour batter pushed through a perforated ladle so it falls as tiny bundi pearls. Those pearls are fried, then soaked in sugar syrup, usually scented with cardamom and sometimes tinted a festive orange. While it's still warm, it's pressed together, often with a little ghee, and rolled into a ball that actually holds. Motichur just uses smaller bundi, so the bite turns softer and more melt in the mouth. Kaju Katli. From fried little bits, you jump to something pressed and polished. Kaju Katli starts as cashews ground down until they're almost like flour, then cooked with sugar until it turns into a soft, pliable mass. That's the moment the sweet shop guy moves fast. Cool it, knead it smooth, roll it out thin, then slice neat diamonds. A lot of pieces get finished with vark, edible silver leaf, so it looks like jewelry in a box. It's one of those Indian sweets that shows up everywhere at Diwali and weddings, because it travels well and screams gift. Srikhand, Kesar, Elaichi. After something as rich as Kaju Katli, Srikhand feels like the cool down. It starts as curd that's strained until it turns thick, often called chakka, then whipped with sugar until it goes smooth and glossy. In Gujarat and Maharashtra, it's a proper classic, especially with hot purists because the warm crisp and cold creamy combo just works. Kesar brings that saffron perfume. Elaichi keeps it bright, not heavy. The real trick is simply removing enough whey so it sets like a spoonable cream, not a drink. Mishti doi. If Srikhand is yogurt whipped smooth, Mishti doi is yogurt left to set. You start by heating milk, then sweetening it with sugar or jaggery until the color deepens toward caramel. Once it cools to warm, not hot, you stir in a little starter curd, pour it into small cups, traditionally clay pots, and leave it undisturbed until it turns gently tangy and firm. The texture lands somewhere between pudding and yogurt, but the flavor is the real point. Toasted sweetness up front, fermentation at the back. In Bengal, it's a standard something sweet for guests and festivals.